Ken. I mean, you look at baseball and you look at the signings and things that are going on, and then out of nowhere, seemingly, we get word that Chris Young told reporters down in Texas Max Scherzer underwent surgery for a herniated disc in his back. He's going to be out till June or July. Now, he's had back issues in the past. He's been on the IL for them. He's missed starts for them. How big of a loss is this for the Rangers, who are still dealing with Jacob deGrom coming off of injury as well?
Britt, they've got a really interesting situation developing down there. So after the All-Star break, presuming Max recovers well and presuming Jacob recovers well and presuming Tyler Mahle, their newest pitcher, recovers well, they could have almost a line change of new pitchers, a new rotation effectively coming in. And they still are interested, as of yesterday, when they knew Scherzer was having surgery, in signing Clayton Kershaw as a free agent. So that would be another Hall of Famer coming back off of surgery in the second half, possibly. I don't know if it's all going to come together like that. I don't know if they're going to sign Kershaw or not, but they're in a really interesting spot, and this is kind of what they did last year. I'm talking more about the Mahle signing and the potential Kershaw signing. They gathered as many bodies as possible and then had the depth come October to really do some interesting things. Andrew Heaney out of the bullpen, or as kind of a glorified opener, Dane Dunning out of the bullpen, Martin Perez, right down the line. So they still have a decent rotation with Eovaldi and Dunning, and of course some others. They still could sign a Jordan Montgomery potentially, but they've had issues because of their RSN, some uncertainty surrounding it, and that has led to some financial restraint, even coming off a World Series title. So they're going to be a team to watch in the coming days, and it's just really a difficult spot for them maybe at the start of the season, but it should get better as the situation improves going forward.
Sticking with the Rangers here, I'm thinking about some young guys that are actually coming up too, like a Jack Leiter. Could you see some young guys getting some opportunities, especially? I know he struggled earlier in his minor league career, but I know he's pretty much been a dominant pitcher throughout. So can you see a guy like that get an opportunity out of spring training, or, another name or two?
I could, Todd, and I don't know about out of spring training, but he is one prospect that is coming, and he's made a lot of progress this offseason on top of the end of last season. Owen White is another one, and yes, this could be a situation where there's some opportunity for some of these younger pitchers. They still have guys that they can turn to. John Gray is another one. I failed to mention him. They are in, as I said, an interesting spot here, and I would imagine we're going to see a lot of different people pitching for the Texas Rangers next season. And the real question for me is, okay, you're counting on deGrom, you're counting on Scherzer, you're counting on Tyler Mahle, all coming back and making an impact. What if that doesn't happen? And what if you're just stuck with all these high-paid guys who really aren't contributing much in 2024? That's something that they're going to have to consider going forward as well.
Who cares, Ken? They won the World Series in 23. They'll deal with a year of downtimes to celebrate that World Series. It happens all the time. The big news for me, besides Max going down, is the Glasnow thing that went down with the Dodgers. Yes, they introduced Ohtani yesterday, and it was obviously well attended. But in the background, ho hum, we traded for Manuel Margot and Tyler Glasnow. Oh yeah, and we signed him to a 5-year, $135 million extension. I mean, are the funds unlimited in Los Angeles?
Actually, AJ, if you look at their luxury tax payroll, they are still well under the top threshold. They're somewhere in the $246 million range right now. That's below a number of teams. They spent a lot of time building up, or actually tearing down, their commitments and putting themselves in position to spend this offseason. So I expect them, yes, to be in on Yamamoto. We know they are in on Yamamoto, and potentially they are the favorite, or one of them, for Yamamoto. So they're going to keep going. They're in position, at least in terms of the luxury tax payroll, to keep going. Yes, cash seems to be unlimited there. That's no secret. But at the same time, the Ohtani deal, we know about it and how it's deferred, and $68 million coming each year, 10 years down the line. They are in as good a position as you can be in for spending all this money. And yes, they obviously have the means to do it. And that's why they're pushing on all these multiple fronts.
I'm a terrible host, guys. I forgot to introduce Todd Frazier, who's here. I would have introduced AJ, but I'm not certain he's still alive after the beatdown Rowdy Tellez gave him on the show yesterday.
Bullshit.
Oh my.
Bullshit.
I mean, Ken, I think you should just accept the bat that AJ's giving out, signed bats, because he like wants to send this bat to Rowdy very badly. And Rowdy clearly didn't want it. So send it to Ken. He can jazz it up in his background and we'll be good to go.
Hey, don't worry. Ken's going to catch a beating before he gets off the show from one of our guests yesterday. So let's not leave Ken alone.
Really?
Oh, really?
Ken, you were all over this Glasnow trade, though, Ken. How did this come about? And is this just typical the Rays being the Rays? They don't want to pay Glasnow. They don't want to pay Margot. So they kind of have to churn and burn and reset here with two younger guys and hope these guys work out.
It is typical Rays, Britt, and you've covered them before, and we all know how they operate. What is interesting here is they're getting, in my opinion, a decent return when, in reality, if you're trading 1 year of control and a $25 million salary, generally speaking, you don't get that kind of return. And then they're throwing in Manuel Margot and, of course, actually adding $4 million to the deal. Yes, the Rays are sending money to the Dodgers, as crazy as that sounds. And that all enabled them to get Ryan Pepio and Johnny DeLuca, and at the same time save $33 million. And really the key here is sending Glasnow to a place he wants to go. He's a Southern California native. And also to a team that is willing to sign him to an extension, because clearly the fact that the Dodgers are getting the extension made them more comfortable giving up the players that they did. So it's kind of a quietly brilliant move by the Rays, in my opinion. What they're doing here is salvaging a situation that was out of hand for them from a payroll perspective. They were at about $120 million. They didn't want to be there. And again, when you trade a guy 1 year of control, $25 million, as much as we talk about, oh, teams don't care how much they're paying a guy on 1 year. Yeah, they care when they have to give up prospects as well. In this case, the Rays got decent players, even though they're sending a ton of money to LA.
It's just phenomenal to see how this all works. Like, you think you understand baseball, and then a trade happens like this, and boom, all this money deferred. This person's getting that. Then they make another trade. I mean, what's next in store for the Dodgers? I mean, I know you talk about Yamamoto, but is there anybody like that they want like right now besides him? Like, because you think about these other teams, Dinkin and Duncan. You think about the Cubs not doing much. Like, there's teams out there that are not doing anything. The Dodgers are just taking control of this whole thing.
Well, Yamamoto is their focus right now, Todd. And if they get him, then, of course, I would imagine they're not going to do much more. At the same time, if they don't get him, they can perhaps trade for another starter, sign a different starter, whether it's Snell or Montgomery. Who knows how they might go about it. They have a number of ways that they can go. And still, right now, their 2024 rotation needs a little bit of work. And you look at getting Glasnow and replacing Pepio. Well, Pepio was going to be in the rotation. Glasnow's better, of course, though he's injury prone. So they aren't really beyond where they were last year in terms of bodies, in terms of numbers. They still need a big-time guy because Ohtani is not going to be pitching for them this year. And right now, Kershaw is a free agent. He might not return. So there are all these things in play with them, and they're going to have to keep focusing on starting pitching because right now, that is the void on the club.
Now let's talk about the Royals here a little bit. They're making these small little, I wouldn't say small, but these trades here left and right. Oh, wow, they got this guy. They just picked up so-and-so. Like, these names, people are like, oh, why are they picking these guys up? Like, can we talk about the Royals a little bit? What's going on with them? Talk to us about the trades they've had, and, they're making some noise.
Well, it's refreshing to see them actually trying to put a better team on the field. The thing I like the most about what they've done are the additions of Lugo and now Michael Wacha. They reached agreement with him today, 2 years, $32 million. And when you have such a young rotation that was so exposed last season, you need to put veterans up top to kind of show the way. Now, Lugo's 34. He's only done it once as a starter, but he was pretty darn good last year. And Michael Wacha, he might not give you 200 innings. He's not going to give you 200 innings. But when he is out there, he is really good, and both these guys should set good examples for their younger pitchers. They also reached agreement with Hunter Renfroe. He should help them offensively as well. I kind of like what I'm seeing here, and we talked about this on the show the other day. They are trying to get a new ballpark built downtown Kansas City. Obviously, if you're trying to convince people to put up the money for that, you want to show them that you're trying. Nice of them to do this. And they're going to keep going. They want to give Bobby Witt a big extension. I don't know if that's going to go anywhere, but it's something that they've been discussing and trying to do.
Ken, the Royals, the Tigers went out and have made some moves also. The Royals have made all these signings. Is this just a sign of how weak the American League Central really is? Because the Royals think they can compete. The Tigers are expecting to take the next step, bringing in Flaherty and some other guys. Is this more of a sign of how bad the AL Central really is?
Well, I do think, AJ, that the Royals and Tigers see opportunity. And the Tigers in particular, they've got some interesting young position players, and now their pitching is coming together as well. Skubal's back, Mize is coming back. You can see an opening in what is undoubtedly a weaker division. Cleveland with the RSN issues, taking seemingly a step backward here. Minnesota with its RSN issues, perhaps taking a step back, certainly not spending the way they wanted to coming off the season that they had. So yeah, there is opportunity there for the other teams in the AL Central. And too often we've seen these teams not respond to that kind of opportunity. But now, yeah, they're going forward, and it's a healthy situation for that division and really for the game too. You need teams trying, and that's what's going on here.
Ken, obviously we had, I don't know, I think 4 or 5 different reporters at Ohtani's press conference yesterday. But to me, one of the more interesting things was that the Angels had the opportunity to match the Dodgers offer at the end. That's what Ohtani's agent said. Do we buy that this is something Ohtani was actually going to do if the Angels had said, yes, we'll give you that exact same deal? And are we giving Artie Moreno any credit here at all for not matching it? Because they were a bad team without Ohtani. They can't win with just Ohtani. So how did you feel when you saw that?
I was kind of skeptical of the whole thing, Britt. The reason is, okay, let's say the Angels said, yes, we'll do this exact same deal. Would Ohtani really have chosen the Angels over the Los Angeles Dodgers, a team that's been to the playoffs, I don't know, every year for the last 10 or so? Hard to believe. And he has talked about winning. He has things in his contract. He has done things in his contract to, in his mind and the Dodgers' minds, enhance the possibility of winning. So you're telling me that if the Angels had matched the Dodgers' offer, he was going to go back to the Angels, who are not about winning, or at least have not been a winning team for quite some time. I have a really hard time believing that. I'm sure they did go back and at least give them the opportunity. I believe that that happened. At the same time, I don't believe Shohei Ohtani would have chosen the Angels over the Dodgers, even if the money was the same. I know he was comfortable there, but I'm just not buying it.
Bob, or Ken, we had Bob Costas on yesterday. I don't know if you've heard of him or not, but he's won 29 Emmys compared to your measly like 4 or 5. So he's kind of a big deal. He said yesterday we were chatting with him. How many do you have?
I don't know, AJ. Can we just continue the show? What's the problem here? What do we got?
No, it's relevant. It's relevant. He said that when we have you on, he wanted me to tell you that he hopes a pickup basketball game breaks out next time you guys are around each other, because he would post your ass up and take you to the hole. Was exactly what he said. I don't know what that means, but I think he
said he would post my ass up.
Yes, he did. Well, maybe not exact, but he did say post you up and take you to the hole. So do you have a rebuttal for Mr. Costas? And then we talked about a salary cap with him, and he's always been very, because of the Dodgers thing, because of now getting Glass now, because of, I know, the luxury taxes. Do you think that could come? Because listen, as a player, we've always fought against it.
First of all, with regard to Bob and posting me up, he could post me up and do a lot of things to me on the court. I'm kind of retired right now. Physically unable to perform.
I got Tim Kirchin beating all you guys, man.
Tim Kirchin, well, hold on. Tim Kirchin, when we were covering the Orioles together, not only crushed me in the paper every day, he did that. Then when we would play pickup basketball back in the days when I was still active, that was not a good contest either. That was a mismatch. Tim Kirchin is one of the best basketball players for his size I have ever seen. Yeah. He used to play in games with Cal Ripken, pickup games. Cal let him play in those games.
This big, too, for a small
guy. Well, whatever. Now, the salary cap is the better question here. And, yeah, it's going to come up. And I understand fans in low-revenue cities get frustrated. They've been frustrated with some of the things I've been writing and whatever. That happens. I get it. At the same time, the Players Union, of which you guys both were members, has historically opposed a cap and opposed the cap vehemently. And they believe, the players do, that the free market is the best way to have this sport run. Now, you can say, and people do say, that it's unfair. It is unfair from a payroll disparity perspective. There's no question about that. Some teams simply cannot spend as much as others. And I heard this pointed out on an NFL broadcast the other day. You can get in the NFL Patrick Mahomes in Kansas City and Josh Allen in Buffalo, and it works because the revenue is based on national television income, not locally generated revenue. Okay, all that is true. However, we have seen in baseball over the years, teams like Tampa Bay, even Oakland for a good amount of time, Cleveland, I can go right down the line. All these low revenue teams have had success for sustained periods. They weren't able to prolong it forever like the Dodgers, but we've also seen teams like the Mets, Padres, and Yankees last season spend a ton of money and not have success. So I would say that the problem is severe in terms of how much money can be spent. I don't know that anyone would dispute that. I don't know that the competitive problem is quite as acute. Now, I was speaking with a low revenue executive a couple of days ago, and he said, okay, we've survived to an extent for this long, but over the next 10 years, the way things are going, with Steve Cohen, with the Dodgers, with the Yankees spending again, he thinks the disparity is going to get so great and so vast that the low revenue teams are going to be in a horrible competitive position. That might be true. But again, this sport has survived just fine without a cap. It's not going to get a cap without another work stoppage. And I don't even know if then the players would ever agree or consent to that.
All right, Ken, we know you got to go, but real quick, we have the actual audio of what Bob said, so we don't have to rely on AJ. Let's take a listen.
No.
And as long as AJ knows, as long as Kenny is still around doing his great stuff, there's still somebody, if we get a pickup basketball game going, that I can post up. So that makes me feel good.
Hey, we've got him on tomorrow. I'm going to make sure that comes up. I promise that will come up tomorrow.
He takes it well, and so do I.
I mean, there's no disputing what he's saying. There's no question about that. He could post me up. Now, the one thing that was exaggerated a little bit was the line, he'll post your ass up. I don't believe that's how Bob put it.
Hey, let's not let the facts get in the way of a better story, okay, Ken?
Understood, AJ.
You rely on the facts. I'll play other reporters and not rely and pretend Shohei signed with Toronto, okay?
Oh, God. Okay. Ken, thanks for being such a good sport. We know you're busy breaking trades, breaking all kinds of stuff. So thanks for hanging with us, and we'll talk to you again soon.
Thanks, Britt. Thanks, guys.